Prime Minister Mark Carney announcing this morning some pretty big news. China and Canada have reached a tariff deal and have struck up a new strategic partnership.
The deal will allow tens of thousands of Chinese electric vehicles into our country in exchange for lower canola duties. Carney says Ottawa expects Beijing to drop canola seed duties to 15% by March. In return, Canada will allow up to 49,000 Chinese EVs into the market at a 6.1% tariff rate. Both those tariffs mentioned were 100% before today. The pact ends a multi-year trade dispute. Carney says the deal is enormous progress for Canadian trade.
Canada has agreed to allow up to 49,000 Chinese electric vehicles into the Canadian market, with the most favored nation tariff rate of 6.1%. This is a return to the levels that existed prior to recent trade frictions. But it's a return under an agreement that promises much more for Canadians. It's expected that within 3 years, this agreement will drive considerable Chinese investment in Canada's auto sector, creating good careers in Canada and accelerating our progress towards a net zero future and the auto industry of the future.
And BNN Bloomberg's Roger Peterson joined us earlier on the show to talk about this new EV deal.
The Chinese EVs, they've lowered the tariffs on it to a more reasonable rate, down to about 6.5%. Chinese electric vehicles, that was the big contentious issue with Trump as well. We matched, essentially, or came close to matching what the U.S. put on EVs. So we've backed off on that. We'll allow about 49,000 of them to come into the country at a 6% tariff rate. And these things are a lot cheaper than the American and any other EVs. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that.
Yeah.
Okay, we've been waiting this morning to see what Premier Doug Ford had to say about this, and this has just arrived. Siobhan Morris, CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief, just shared this with our newsroom. Doug Ford putting on X here, and it's long, so I'll make it brief. But this is what he opens with. Make no mistake, China now has a foothold in the Canadian market and will use it to their full advantage at the expense of Canadian workers. The federal government is inviting a flood of cheap, made-in-China electric vehicles without any real guarantee of equal or immediate investments in China's economy, auto sector, or supply chain. I'll just make this brief. Worse, by lowering tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, this lopsided deal risks closing the door on Canadian automakers to the American market, our largest export destination, which would hurt our economy and lead to job losses. The statement goes on for 2 longer paragraphs, but that gives you a quick sense of what Premier Doug Ford thinks of this deal that was struck with China and Canada. Again, doesn't seem very much on side with this. We'll sort of dissect this a little more for you and talk more about this throughout the program this morning.